Hello everyone and welcome back to Jacqs Scraps. Thank you for joining me for part 4 in my junk journal series. Today we're going to be continuing working on our journal and we're going to be creating the cover. I know I haven't finished all of the pages inside, but as you can see here, I have started to add some additional decoration to the pages. Now, just to get you up to date real quick, these are the elements that I mentioned that I would add off screen. Because it takes time to think through how I actually want to decorate it, I've shown you some of the base type of decorating. So what I've done is I've gone through, I've added some little flat back pearls, some appliques, as you can see here on the front, added some additional laces to the pages. For the long laces, I did sew them on with my machine. I was going to record it, and you know what? I totally forgot about recording it. I went back through, added those items to the tags, added this cute little tag. But I will show you more of that type of thing when I do the final reveal. But just so that you know, I've just already started doing some embellishing, and the reason I needed to do the lace was so that I would know how wide to make the cover. And that's what we're going to be working on today. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, I'm using a hanging file folder for my cover. I previously did a video showing how to cut one of these hanging file folders so that you could turn it into a cover. And that's the footage that I'm going to insert here to show you. And it's really quite easy. The first thing you do is want to cut off the metal hangers that are part of the file folder. Once you do that, you merely just cut it down to the size that you need. So how I determine that is by the width of my journal, which we know is 5.5. However, when we added our additional pages, because I didn't cut these down to all be the same size, I have different sizes here, which I kind of am liking this because you get this nice little staggered look on the side. So your width should be at the widest point of all of your pages. So from here all the way to the middle one. It's 5 7/8. And then I kind of allotted for the lace as well. And then the height is 8.5 as we know, and then I added on a 1/4 of an inch to that. So my final cover size when I got done cutting it down was 8 inches by 8 3/4. Now I'm going to show you how I actually then size everything for this particular journal. I'm making a wrap over cover. As you know, these file folders come with pre-scored lines. So I took the very first one and I creased that one. Then I went over and scored at 8 7/8. So to do that, I have to turn it upside down, and then I put this corner against the side of my scoreboard. And then I opened it up 5 7/8 and made a score. Then I folded that under, folded and burnished. So this side here is going to wrap around the journal. Let me put this in there just so that you can see. I'm folding this over. This is going to become a pocket. And I love this looks that this would be the cover and then you could see the laces. But I kind of like the idea also of doing a wraparound closure. So to do that, I wanted to add some more score lines here so that it will wrap easily, making it more round than square. So I once again flip this around. I scored at 1.5, 1 3/4, and 2. You could even put some extras in there. You could really go a 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8. That way, as the inside of your journal grows, the cover grows with you. So I may even put one at 1 3/8. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish all of these, and then I'll see if I want to add any more. So now we have this nice flexible corner here, and we do end up with this rounded edge. And let's see how that looks. So we go to the very last one, put in the journal. And again, I'm just placing it there to kind of see how everything is looking. I love that this is automatically curling over. That's fabulous. We will add a closure here. And then you can make this as tight as you want. That's why I'm saying you might want to add a few more here if you want it really tight. But if you are doing laces, I'm going to do it to where it's closed but not too tight. So it'll be like this, but as it grows, it can expand out. I like that. I might add some more on the back here. So really, you just want to put in as many as you want. I think having at least one more there would be good. Now that we have our base cover created and prepped, I'm going to start decorating. I think it's going to be best to open this up as we decorate. I'm going to start with the outside front cover, and I'm going to use the cover that was included in Petals and Letters Companion Pack 2. Now all I've done was taken the sheet and cut it at 5 3/8. So this is 5 3/8 inches wide by 8.5. It already has like this little border around it as well as metal corners, and I love that. You could cut down the edges and add an additional cardstock underneath here. But quite frankly, I like this look that I have going on. I really want to be able to see the green. And I like the light color that is already around this cover. So all I have to do is glue this down. I'm going to take my cutoff piece and just go ahead and glue that down. And I think here in the center is where I might add fabric. Now, when making journals, some people like to use Tyvek to strengthen the spine. Some don't worry about it. It's really your preference on what you like to do. I purchased some Tyvek tape, and I typically use this on my hanging file folders specifically to just put here in the spine area. Since we are going to be sewing this in, it helps strengthen it. If you don't have Tyvek tape, you could use packing tape if you wanted to put that there. Just something else to give it a little bit of strength, I find is helpful. The only downside I found with using the Tyvek tape is that it does have an odor at first, but it does go away. And of course, it has that, logo on it. So you have to definitely cover it up. But I still use it because I do think that it helps. Now, I have created journals before without using the Tyvek tape, and they've been fine as well. But I just wanted to share that little helpful hint that you can use packing tape or this Tyvek tape to strengthen your spines. So to cover the inside here, what I'm going to do is use the second cover that's included in the Companion Pack 2 for Petals and Letters, and I'm just going to use the opposite side. Now, when placing this down, you'll see that you can see the tape here and there. And I kind of forgot I should have moved the tape down 1/4 of an inch and then placed it. And then here comes short 1/4 of an inch so that it would be under the pattern paper and not showing. So I'm going to have to do something here to cover that up because, you know, I don't want that to show. But otherwise, this whole piece will fit on the inside of our cover. I'm lining it up with the last score line on the right-hand side, because on the left-hand side, we're making a pocket, and we don't need it to go down into the pocket. Nobody's going to see that part. So it just fits. I love that. So now I just need to cover these. Could probably use some washi. You could use fabric tape. I do have some fabric tape. So let me dig that out and see if that will work. So I found some 49 and Market washi tape, and I just love the vintage and watercolor look of this. So I'm going to add this. I mean, you're not really going to see too much of that because the cover is going to be folded. So I'll just make sure I put that on the screen so that you guys don't have to do this part. So I'm going to score this piece at 4.5. Could probably be a little bit less, but I'm just going to do a light score there. And now I'm going to glue this whole piece down. So here's my fold, and I'm going to go in and crease this very carefully, just like we do our mini albums. Okay, now that we have that in, we can start working on our pocket. I'm going to glue this down on 2 sides. Might have to hold it there till it grabs. I've taken this pattern from the collection and I've cut off the ends here, 2 of them. These are 1 1/8 inches wide by 8.5 inches long. I'm going to use this one with the little flowers on the left and this one on the inside over here. Okay. Oh, and if I didn't say I'm using an 1/8 of an inch border around everything, I may have mentioned that already. Just lining it up with the top of my pattern paper that's already there. I should have done this one a little bit better. So now we can easily tuck something into the pocket. To cover the front, you're going to need another piece that measures 1 1/8 by 8 1/2. And I'm just going to glue that on top like that. For the centerpiece, I'm not quite sure really what I want to do here, so I just cut some of the, I had another cover, so I cut 2 by 8 1/2, and I'm going to overlap 1/4 of an inch here, and I'm going to cover up the actual image of the spine here. Okay, so that's the cover. I love how the gold bounces off of this inner pattern. It's so pretty. Now on the outside, I'm not really sure about the pattern that I put here, but I wanted to keep it within the same family color. So that's why I went ahead and added this. I do feel like I'm going to be covering that with something. I just don't know what it is yet. So, you know, if I do something you don't like, just feel free, change it up, make it your journal. That's what I'm all about. So for right now, I think that will do. I can always put something over it. It's the beauty of that. And now this is all ready for us to add our signature. So that's what we're going to do next. Take our signature and sew it in to our journal cover. Okay, I am back and I have my supplies. I've got my awl. I have a needle that has a very large, I don't know, what is this, an eye of the needle. I'm using this one because I'm using crochet thread, and this is a little bit of a thicker thread, and I want to make sure that it can get through my needle. And so to do that, I'm also using a thread puller. I don't know. I don't know the technical terms for these things, but I love these. These are fantastic. And I found that these plastic ones are really the best. The metal ones don't work for me. I also pulled out a self-healing mat that I'm going to be using. So when we go to punch the holes into our papers, I have something that I can punch into. You can also use an old phone book or an old book, something like that, that won't damage your surface. So for the thread, you can use wax thread. I should have tried my new wax thread that I purchased, but I really love this natural looking crochet thread. So when I do this, I usually do the length of the book that I'm working on, and I do that 3 times, and then sometimes I even leave extra just to be safe. I'd rather have too much than not enough when you are threading your book. So let's count this out to see what I did. 2, and there's 3, and then I left, oh, I guess I did 4 and a little bit. So that's really quite a bit. Usually I do 3 and then maybe this much, but I did another whole length, which is fine because I'm going to try the 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and I'm not sure that I've done that one before or not. I can't really remember. So I want to make sure I definitely have enough thread. So the difference between the crochet thread and any wax thread, of course, wax thread means that it has wax on the outside of the thread. It does help it to thread a little bit easier onto your needle, as well as to move a little bit easier throughout your pages. But I still love the all natural kind of thread. Now, as I was preparing this for all of you, of course, I had to create a freebie for you. So I created a Pamphlet Stitch Template, and this has the 3-hole, 4-hole, and 5-hole punch templates that you can use when you are making your junk journals. The black dots show where you want to punch your holes, and then the gray solid line in the center is where you can score, and you can place it then right in your book to help you line up where to punch your holes instead of having to figure it out or eyeball it on your own. Now this size is the size for 8.5 by 11. I imagine if you aren't making that size, you could cut these down to be the size to meet your journal need, especially the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. You could probably do the 4 as well. When you go to the 5th one, that may not be as adaptable to smaller size journals than the 3 and 4-hole pamphlet stitch. So just in case you're not making an 8.5 by 11 size journal, I wanted to make sure you could still adapt this. So the hole comes down 1.5, and I think here, yeah, 1 1/4, 1.5, and then we have 1 inch here. So just so that you know, I go down, and maybe I'll put this on the sheet. I haven't actually finalized it yet, so that you know where the first hole is, and then you can adapt it from there. Another thing that I want to include on this freebie is diagrams to show you how to thread the holes. So this will be included as well for those that aren't familiar. I hope you'll be able to understand this type of diagram, but that's the kind I'm going to add to this freebie. There's also ways that you can end with your tails of your thread where they're on the inside, or you can do it where they're on the outside. And if I have enough room and everything, I will show you both options. Again, for those that are new to junk journaling, I think that will be helpful. So I'm just going to put that up there. Okay, so I'm going to cut out my template. Now to punch our holes, what I'm going to do is I've decided to set this aside, and I'm only going to do a few pages at a time because I want to make sure everything is lining up properly. So I will take, let's see, I have 4 pages here and some loose ones. So that's good. I'll paper clip these together. Going to add in my template. Actually, I think you can hold this in, or you could paper clip it in. I think I'm going to paper clip it just for more security. Because, you know, we don't want holes everywhere. All right, let's give this a go. So I've lined up my template with the spine of the papers. And wherever the black dot is where I'm going to put my awl. You can use a pokey tool. You can use a push pin. Anything you have that is pointy and long that you can punch through and make holes will work. I have another awl that is quite thick here at the stem, and I would not recommend a very thick stem is what I'm calling it, part of an awl, because it makes that much of a big hole into your papers. I don't personally like having the big holes. Some people do. There are those awls that you can push and you can push down and it will go and make the hole for you. I think those are a little bit bigger of a hole, but I'm just lining it up here, whatever tool you're going to use, and push that through. And you want to go straight across to the back. See? So I'm trying to push my hole right where the spine is. Now, if I'm off a little bit, that's okay. But you want to go through a little bit, maybe a ½ inch. Okay. So I'm just picking a spot on my template in the center, and I'm pushing straight through. And you see it's coming out on the spine. Okay, right there. I'm laying this flat, and now I'm pushing through. Like I said, if you have a phone book, you could push through this way. I think it's easier to just do it side to side. Now I'm gonna have to move this, I think. Okay. So there are my holes in this set, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in this little folio. I'm going to line this up. Let's see. It's unfortunately lining up right at the top of the top and bottom hole. I'm going right through the hole I've already made and hoping that's the right spot for my folio. There. So now that's ready to go. Can't hardly see my holes. Okay. So that's what I'm going to continue to do here, is to grab a little batch of papers. I'll grab a few more this time, and then I'll do the last batch together. I think that'll work. This is the one with all the little pieces parts. I don't want to put this down here. Let's see. Where's my template? Okay. Yeah, 5-hole was definitely the way to go, because it's hitting all my little pieces perfectly. I'm going to have to do something and cover up that splotchiness there. I'm not sure what happened. Or is it supposed to be like this? I think so. Again, I make sure all my sides are straight. And I do it to where it's kind of plopped open. Because that's how I punched my holes, so. All right. I'm probably not doing the best at explaining this. It's hard to explain and do at the same time. All right, so I'm gonna put my template here in the center. Just paper clipping that on. Going to use my awl again and going in through the same holes. Give it a punch. And I come out right on the spine. Okay, so right there. So it's important when you're doing it that you're pushing kind of straight in. If you push at an angle, your hole's going to be off center. So that's the importance of punching straight through. Now, even sometimes I can get off. It's okay. Typically, it's not going to be a major thing, but it can get your papers off center. There we go. That's hard getting through all those. There. So there's my holes. I did pretty good. That was a big bunch. It had all of the half pieces in it. Now, again, you want to kind of keep these all lined up the way that you had them, because we have to go back through and, you know, thread everything. So if you can keep these as straight as you had them to begin with, that's a good idea. Try not to move them around too much. Okay, so here's our last batch. We just have this. I really wish, maybe I'll do some temporary taping, because I'm afraid that's going to move. Okay, feel better about that. Okay, yeah, these should be pretty easy. Just gonna go ahead and put my big paper clip. And now I can add my template. I used to do this without a template, and I must say, this is much easier. Because you'd go through, you can make hole punches on the first one and then do the rest, but actually this is fairly easy. Okay, again, I'm just going to repeat the same process, going through the same hole and punching straight across. Now you see I don't really go all the way through. I just use the tip of the awl, really. There we go. Gonna leave that there. Put that with this one. Okay, now we're gonna do the cover. The difference between the cover and the pages is that the pages match this template perfectly. For the cover, it is 1/8 of an inch larger on each side. I wanted to have that little bit of extra space. So I'm lining this up mainly with the pattern paper on the inside because that is the size of the template. So I'm just finding where the spine is, and I'm going to line that up. On both sides. Okay. So it's the length on the inside. This is going to be really thick. So again, just using the same holes, punching through. Oh, I got it. All right. And there we go. Okay. Now the good thing is you can take this template and save it. If you've printed this out on cardstock, it will last a little bit longer. You could also print it on cardstock, then laminate it, and then, you know, punch your holes in it that way. It might be a little bit tougher at first, but over time, it would be a really good, long-lasting template. But quite frankly, you could just do this on regular copy paper and then just reuse it over and over again, making new ones so that you have fresh holes each time, which might be a good idea if you're not going to laminate it or anything. So that is ready, and we have our holes in our cover. Okay, now I'm going to bring my thread in and thread up my needle. Might need my threader for this. I think so. This is like one of my favorite tools that I don't use very often, but it's wonderful to have on hand. Now when you do this, you want to bring down and let it have a little bit of a tail here. And I have plenty of room, so I could actually make mine a little bit longer. And then we want to keep this straight as we go throughout this process. Okay. Now, I'm going to make it to where my ends are on the outside of the journal, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to put lace or something over this area here, and then it will cover up the threads. And I also don't want my threads showing here in the center because I have this really nice folio here. So that's my preference on how I'm going to do it. Now, I kept some of these paper clipped together. So I'm going to try it this way first. As soon as you get 1 or 2 loops going, you can, you know, put all your pages together. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start by going through. Oh, it's on the outside. I have to go through the outs. I'm just looking at my little cheat sheet here, and we have to start by entering on the outside into the center. So this part's going to be a little bit tricky to get started but in the end, it'll be all right. So I'm gonna go through the middle hole of my cover. Now, when you pull it through, again, you wanna leave a tail, okay? So many papers. Now, I have these in bunches because I wanted to keep my holes pretty much straight. Like if you look through that hole, you could see the other side, and that's what you want. So now that we have it in the center on our cover, we're going to go ahead and do the same on our pages. Now, if your pages get out of alignment, you're gonna have to fish around to make sure you get it into the right hole. That's why I kept them paper clipped, so that it would be a little bit easier. So before I pull that through, I wanna make sure real quick that I've gotten all my pieces. So I was worried about this. So having that tacked down with washi tape was the right thing to do because it kept it in place. So yes, we're good to go there. So I can pull this all the way through, okay? So now I'm gonna pull it right up to my cover. Now we're ready to add our next set of papers. This was the second batch that I punched holes in. So again, I'm going through the center. I'm trying to show you this. So again, if your pages aren't exactly lined up where they were when you punched the holes, it's going to be a little tricky. So you just really gotta kind of there we go. You kind of just wiggle it around until you find your hole, if that makes sense. And again, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting all my pieces. I should have checked that before I pulled it through. Yeah, okay. Okay, now remember when you pull this through, you want to leave your tail out here. Okay? Going to add this. Since it's a little piece, just going to put that in there on its own. Now that's all lined up. Now I'm going to add the last bit of my papers in the center. That was easy. And joining that up all the way. And then my folio. Okay. Okay. All right. The next thing we want to do is go up, or you could go down, whichever way you prefer. I'm going to go up and go to the next hole, and we're going to start going back through and threading all the pages together in that direction. Now, I'm going to do the folio and get it out of the way for a minute so I can show you. So I'm going to go through the pages, hopefully. It'll be a little easier. I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna bring you down a little bit. Okay, I'm bringing you down a little bit, so hopefully you'll be able to see that I'm threading back through all the pages. Now you can do them one by one like this, or you can just try to do them all at one time. Because I have several pages that are half pages. So that's the downside of me liking the little small pieces, is that it takes a little bit longer to go through all the pages. But you know what? I still love having the half pages. So, okay, I'm going to pull this through, and then I'm going to come back up here, set my folio up there so it can be realigned. There. Now, whenever you are pulling on your string, remember to pull in the direction that you're threading. So we're threading up, so I'm pulling my thread out and up. You wouldn't want to pull down because it will tear your holes, okay? So I'm going to pull this back through. There we go. And then if I need to have more, I can. Let's just do that one there. I feel better about that. Okay. So we've gone in the center hole, up to the next hole, and out. Now we're going to go in the top hole, okay? Okay, can you guys see through here? I thought maybe you might be able to see it this way. See? And it came right through. So I don't know if that helped at all to show you the threading. Okay, I'm going to pull this through. Now, I like to keep it fairly taut, but don't do too much because, like I said, it will tear your pages. So we've threaded up, now we're going to thread down. We're going to go through the same hole we've done before. This time you want to make sure that you're kind of on the opposite side of where the thread is. So here the thread is on the bottom. So I'm going to go at the top of where the thread is, right here, and go through. You also don't want to put your needle in between the thread because that will weaken your threads if you get in between them and they can break. So you want to go up at the top and then go through the same holes. You see that? So when I came out, I did not come out in between this thread. That's important, okay? If you see that your needle is in between the threads of this thread, take it back out and come back in so that you're beside it but not in it, okay? And then push that through. Now what we're going to do is skip the center and come down to the next hole. And we're going to go in through there. I need to switch this around. Okay. that's where clipping your pages comes into play, because it keeps them all where they need to be. So let's try that. All right, here we go. See, my pages are not working like that. Can't use that one. Okay. I don't know why I'm finding it easier to do this. I've never stood them up before, but then I don't know that I've ever done a 5-hole pamphlet stitch before. So I don't know what you can see, what you can't see. But you can do this with the journal standing up or laying down, whatever works for you to get this threaded. And there we go. Yeah, I don't know why I find that easy. It looks difficult, but it's not. Okay, you want to make sure there's no loops. Okay, and now we're going to go through the bottom hole. Now, I might have to poke a hole here. There. Okay. Yeah, something's going on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now we need to do one more loop. We're going to come in to the hole we've already been in, and then we're going to go out the center. Okay? Right. So let's put that in. I'm going to come on the bottom part of that hole. Okay, you see him coming through on the other side of it. There, but that's what it looks like. See the double loop there, right from the one hole. And then we're going to go through the center hole and out here. That's why people clip their pages so that they don't move around, but mine are still moving because I have so many pages. So because you'll have so many pages. I have been using that clip. This one pushes them around. I don't like it. Don't like that clip. All right, anyways. So pushing this through. And I'm going to come, since this is on this side of the center thread, I'm going to come out on the other side. Hopefully. Okay, see that? There we go. You can unthread it now. Take it off the paper clip. I like to go back through and just check. Okay, everything is threaded. I'm going to close this up and flip this over. Now we can tie this off on the back. Just make sure nothing's extremely loose. I usually do it 3 times, I think. 2 or 3 times is good. Now, with the threads that you have left, you can use these and create dangles out of them. You could put beads on them. You could add little paper images to the bottom of the tails. However you want to use them, you can. But like I said, I think I'm going to put lace over this. So for right now, I'm just going to leave the tails. But I wanted you to know that you could add beads to these, all kinds of things. You could turn these into a charm dangle, okay? So, but there is our journal all sewed together. Okay, now that we have that done, we can do a little more decorating for the cover. One of the first things I want to do is add these little corner embellishments. If you notice on the design, there's already these metal corners that I added, and they're on the back as well. So I wanted to mirror that when this folds over, that it would have them as well. So I had these in my stash and thought they would be perfect for this. So if you have some corner embellishments, these would be perfect for that. Now I see, I think I'm going to use glossy accents on this. There is a little adhesive tape there, but it is not really that strong. So glossy accents would be the best when it comes to metals. Or at least that's what I think. So I'm just going right on the edge there of that strip. Now on the outside, I am going to go ahead and trim off my strings. I picked out 2 laces that I want to add. This pretty one, which we've actually used on the inside of the journal. And then this gorgeous one. This is a blue fern lace. Picked this up from Country Cuff Creations a while back. I don't think they have it anymore, but it's gorgeous. So I want to kind of lay these over top one another. I don't know, I'm really liking that. To where it's something like this. So it doesn't even matter if you can see the roses on the bottom lace, because I don't want to cover too much of this flower up. I love it. So something like that. Okay, now if you have a lace that is a little too bright, you can always take your ink and go over it to make it a little bit less bright. So I'm going to do this and we'll see if I like it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I do like that. I mean, I could do the same thing with these white laces, but I don't think I'm going to. Because when you think about it, you know, our book is going to be closed, so you're not going to see the white laces right away. So to have these be a little bit less white would make more sense for the cover. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lay these down. Okay, this is nice and dry, and I'm loving how this is looking. And I even love this a lot better than it was before. So I'm happy with that now. We're going to work on a closure. I'm going to use a 3/16 inch eyelet right here in the center. And then I'm going to use some lace to wrap around and be the closure for this. I think that would be the best way to do it. So I have my crocodile. I have the big bite. So the first thing I want to do is find the center. And I'm going to go in about probably 3/8 of an inch. Let's see how far that gets us. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right. So about 3/8 inches in and 4 3/8 inches down. On 3/16, I'm going to make my hole first. I know you really can't see this, but I'm sure you've seen this before. So now I got my eyelet in there. So we have our eyelet in there, and I've cut about 45 inches of this lacy ribbon that I have, and it's kind of elasticy, and I thought that would be perfect for this type of journal because as it grows, you would want more room, right? So what I decided to do, I'm going to put this in half and kind of loop it through. You know what would be good here is my threader. I don't know if I want to go to the front or the back. I don't know. We'll see. So much easier. Okay, I'm going to take and open this up and then pull my ribbon through there. There we go. Now, to close this, then, you can separate them, wrap one around one way, and then wrap the other one around the other way. And then you can tie them up. And then we have our journal all secured. There we go. Now again, if you wanted to, you could, you know, come in and brush on some ink, knock some of that white back. Then it kind of blends in a little bit better. So there we have it. Now, I don't think I'm going to do any more decoration on the front of this. If I do, maybe it'll be some gems or something. I kind of like it like this, and then that way when you're journaling, you don't get all the bumpiness from any decoration on the front. So that is going to be the end of this particular video. I think the next video will be the final reveal. I'll go through and finish up some of the decorating or embellishing that I have left to do. I've really got the back end of the journal to work on. I think the front is really quite good the way it is. So that's what I'll be focused on, and when I come back, I'll just do a final reveal. If there's anything to share as in technique or how I did something specific, I will add that to the later part of that video just so that you'll have it. So that's it, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are having success with your journal as well, and I'll see you next time.